I want to spend a few minutes, and I'm trying to put something together in your mind, because once it goes together, you can get this word out, and everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. It ties back to last week, Edward Bernays. He is the father of modern propaganda. Goebbels used his propaganda. He is the reason why women smoke. He is the reason why all cars are not black. He's an amazing guy. He is I think the archetypal Cass Sunstein. He is the guy who Cass would look at, I'm guessing, and says, that is my model. He is a regulatory guy that believed in regulation because he believed in what he called an enlightened despotism. This is why they can't see left or right, and they only see stupid and smart. They don't see left and right. Left and right is the same. They'll say the right is communism and fascism, and the left is enlightened. You'll say, but what, you want a big state? No, but that's no, you're just so stupid you don't understand. It's all about stupidity. If you don't get it, well, you're just stupid. If you actually believe in the founders, you're just ridiculously stupid. If you believe a man can rule himself, and men should be allowed to rule themselves without some grand plan, without any nudging, well then, if you actually believe that, you're stupid. But you can't actually believe that, because people are cattle. They're herds. At least a good percentage of them. I'm trying to get this out because it's really important that you understand where this thinking comes from, so then you can recognize. Stop. You remember when I said to you 2-3 years ago, I said, I don't even, maybe it was 4 years ago, I don't even know, how did we even get here? How did we get to this place? And then I started doing my homework on American progressivism, and now you know how we got here. This, to me, is as critical to understand as that. If you saw at first and you were like, okay, Glenn, get off it. But now you understand what a progressive really is, and now you really know, you see why I harped and harped and harped. The same is true on this. You have to understand this fact because it answers so much. And it is the cattle theory, that all men are not created equal. Some are cattle and some are intellectuals that can rule in a kind and enlightened despotism, as it was called back in the early 20th century. Now, I want to play some audio, and it doesn't even matter who these clowns are. I'm not going to give them any credit or airtime. But I want you to listen. One is a so-called expert, and the other one is a radio clown. And I want you to listen to what they're saying, because it's really important with the explanations on the backside. You can find this audio and video at theblaze.com. Here it is.
Welcome back. Could this all have to do with how people are wired mentally? People showing up at right-wing rallies with loaded assault weapons and using machine guns and things to make political points.
How often have we seen the machine gun for political points? I mean, if I see another machine gun to make a political point.
Well, I did see it wasn't a machine gun, but I did see the rifle in, what's his name, Governor, what's his name from West Virginia?
Oh, yeah,
when he was shooting the cap and trade bill, yeah.
John Manchin.
Okay, so
fired
I just want, but let's go back before that. Let's go back, and what did he say? He said, does this all come down to the way people are wired? To the left, yes, it does. And it started with Bernays and his uncle, Sigmund Freud, and all the early progressives. Yes, it does come down to the way people are wired. There's a good part of the population, as Cass Sunstein now says, that is Homer Simpson. And when you realize they're Homer Simpson, they're so easily manipulated. So in other words, people are stupid, and we can manipulate them. Now, if you want to take an enlightened point of view, and this is the point of view that the left would take, is we have to, or they'll just become violent and out of control. That's their point of view. Evidence. Listen how they're talking about the right.
In political advertising. Is there can you speak to the psychology of this?
What the studies show, the empirical studies over almost well over a half a century of studying this issue, they really show that about 25% of a given population easily falls into the authoritarian personality type.
Stop. Stu, can you give me the percent of population that says that they are liberal? Completely unrelated.
I can look it up.
I can give you that. It's 20%.
20 or 21%?
20%, Glenn.
Okay, well, it's completely wrong then, because he says 25%
okay.
of any given population falls into the authoritarian rule, and he explains it like this.
These are people who, as I said, like to be told how to think, what to do. Some of them who are more aggressive in their personality want to jump out in front and say, "Follow me," but they will follow their leader till they get their turn.
Stop. So, got it? They just want to be told what to do and how to think. So, in other words, people who are looking for what to eat, how to live, how to smoke, how to drink, how to drive, how to run their business, how to run their banking. So what he's saying is there's about 25% of the population that wants that kind of ruler.
They should live here in New York.
Yes, they should. Yes, they should. Under this progressive.
No salt,
exactly
no
right. They'll tell you
no smoking,
these progressives will tell you everything you need. So then he goes on to say, so there's 25% that want that. And then there will be those who will jump out and give that to the people. Okay. I'm just trying to follow, because we're going to get to the Tea Party people here in a second. I just want to make sure 25% of the population, 21% is liberal. That 25% wants somebody to rule over them, and someone will jump out ahead and just give that to them. Okay. All right, I got it. Go on.
And they look upon others who don't see the world as they do, as outsiders.
Okay, stop for a second. So, all right, and here's another piece of information. So 25%, they look at anyone else who disagrees with them as outsiders. So in other words, somehow or another, that 25% thinks they're 75%, and they're the ones that are not screwed up. It's everybody else. And they look at everyone else and say, no, you can't have another opinion. That's an opinion of a crazy person or an outsider or I don't even understand you. You don't belong here. Okay, because I want to make sure that I understand what he's describing as he's describing the left. I'm sorry, the right.
As I say, when you have about 25% of the population of this personality ilk,
yes,
you're always going to have these people out there.
Right.
And they're very susceptible to the direction they get from their leaders.
Okay, stop for a second.
I think it's very
stop for a second. So they're very receptive to the instructions from their leaders. In other words, they will just follow blindly. You could take any kind of message and just give them a message, and as Bernays and Freud worked out, as long as it's about security, sex, aggression, and what was the other one? Not reliance.
Preservation?
Self-preservation. As long as it's about those things, you can get them to move in any direction. You just say those things, and you'll be able to get them to move. Okay, so in other words, they're not really thinking. You just give them a catchy slogan. I can't think of one right now, but you're a leader and you're running for president. You just give them a slogan, and 75% may stand around and go, what does that even mean? But the 25 are easily moved by their leader.
Responsible for the Palins, the Becks, the O'Reillys, and the people who feed this violent atmosphere, they should realize the people they're dealing with. They're smart enough to look at this information and know, indeed, they can provoke this kind of behavior.
Okay, stop. So, you got it? So, we're smart enough, Palin and Beck and O'Reilly, we're smart enough to know that this kind of description of people exist. Yes, and I know the origins of it. Mr. Don't look into progressivism. I'm there with you. I know the origins of it. Not only do I know it exists, I know who is propagating this, and I know where it comes from and why it was designed. So I know about your cute little study, Mr. Progressive. So I know about it, and he says you better know the people you're dealing with, because that's why we're a danger, because you can get these people to act. Which brings me back here to an article called Mobilizing the Jobless. I have to share this with you because you have new information now. The left knows that these people exist. They designed the system to play off of those who just want to be told what to have, what to eat, where to go. They just want to live off the system. I'm sorry, but that doesn't sound like any libertarian I know, and it doesn't really sound like any real person on the right except in the crazy progressive right, which exists. The people that I see in the Tea Party want self-determination, so they don't fit in that category. But let's look for somebody else that knows about this because they've spoken about it and are actually whipping them up into a frenzy to get them to act. Mobilizing the jobless. Now put this together with what we just spoke about just a few minutes ago, where people are cattle, and there's 25% of the population, according to this liberal expert, that just want to live in authoritarian rule. And people like me should be smart enough to know what I'm dealing with. Okay, so I got it. So in Mobilizing the Jobless, in the magazine The Nation, Francis Fox Piven writes, "Where are the angry crowds, the demonstrations, the sit-ins, the unruly mobs? After all, the injustice is apparent. Working people are losing their homes, while the pensions of the robber baron CEOs report renewed profits and windfall bonuses. Shouldn't the unemployed be on the march? Mass protests might change the president's posture if they succeeded in pressing him hard enough from his base, something that hasn't happened so far in this administration. But there are obstructions to mobilizing the unemployed that would have to be overcome. First of all, when people lose their jobs, they're dispersed. They're no longer connected to their fellow workers or their unions, and not easily connected to the unemployed from other workplace and occupations. Despite some modest initiatives, the AFL-CIO's Working America, which includes the unemployed among their ranks, or the International Association of Machinists, or Union of Unemployed, known as U Cubed, most unions do little for the unemployed. Note, there are only recently prisoners in at least 7 different facilities in Georgia State Penitentiary System managed to stage coordinated protests using only cell phones they had bought from guards. So it remains to be seen whether websites that unite the 99ers or those laid off that have recently been initiated among the unemployed can also become the basis for collective action, such as the internet has in the global justice movement. So she's saying they've done it in prisons. They've just recently had riots. And who launched the 99ers? SEIU. Who's somebody who believes in Francis Fox Piven from the 60s and was part of SDS? SEIU's Andy Stern. Second, before people can mobilize for collective action, they also have to develop a proud and angry identity, a set of claims now that go with that identity. They have to go from being hurt and ashamed to being angry and indignant. Third, protesters need targets Did she just use the word target? Yes, she did. Protesters need targets, preferably local and accessible ones, capable of making some kind of response to angry demands. She goes on to say, an effective movement of the unemployed would have to look something like the strikes and the riots that have spread out across Greece in response to the austerity measures forced upon the Greek government by the European Union, or like student protests that recently spread with lightning speed across England in response to the prospect of greatly increased school fees. Protests by the unemployed, led by young workers and students who face a future of joblessness, might become large enough and disruptive enough to impact Washington. We should hope for another American social movement from the bottom and then join it. Let me just put in here. Protests of the unemployed led by young workers and students who face a future of joblessness. Coordinating all of the workers who are now unemployed. She is playing into the four things that Edward Bernays talked about. She's playing right directly into them. And while we're searching around for these bogus enemies, what is talk radio doing? We have real people talking about real violence. And they're talking to the people that are coordinating things. They are trying to make exactly what this clown said just a few minutes ago. Exactly what he said. Exactly what he said. Bill O'Reilly of all people, and Sarah Palin are doing is exactly what the left is doing. It's a red herring. Now we have to decide, who are we? What are we going to allow as the truth? The media is not going to put this truth out. They will not tie these together. And believe me, they know. They know. So you must do it. You must be the center of truth.